I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys.
That was pretty smooth.
It was. Richie, he's gotten pretty good at that.
Trying to get the kinks worked out of this thing. I'll tell you.
Yeah, he is. So, look, I'm looking around the room. Toxie's down there. He's
on
not
TikTok
sure what
again.
he's doing.
He's on TikTok.
Lanny Wallace sitting here at the table. Dudley Phelps got a big smile on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a good shrimp po' boy for
Toxie
lunch.
has got a
Last
smile.
time I was on TikTok, I had a watch. I was wearing a watch.
All right. So,
That was a
I'm not sure who's writing your jokes for you.
Bobby would be proud. Bobby would be proud of that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So look, I can't wait to talk to this guy. We have got one of the industry legends.
What you say about all the girls, Bobby? You do.
Yeah.
He's trying to get a turkey hunt out of the deal.
So we've got straight from the West Coast, Bruce Pettet,
All right.
and he is the president and CEO of Leupold, who makes
Of
the
what? Leupold.
Leupold. That's what I said. Leupold. Bruce, how do you pronounce it?
It's Leupold. They're right.
We told you.
It's Leupold. That's what I said. Bruce, we're glad to have you here. We want to learn a little bit about Leupold, and I've got a bunch of questions about optics and scopes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to
Nice.
just say though, in today's world, you don't get the kind of lifetime partners in businesses in and out. What you do for me lately, so they're right at the top as far as long time, continuous, almost unconditional partners with the Mossy Oak brand, and I just want to be sure
No doubt about
all
it.
our people out there recognize that they've been with us for a very
long
long
time.
Yeah.
Through hell and high water, good times, not so good, and in between. And so that's a big deal when brands stick together, you know.
Yep. I got some tree stand Leupolds right there.
I look.
Look, it's good.
And it's a quality product. They
Those
make
things
a quality
have been
product.
through HELL.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say a bad word, but they have been there and they've held up, and it's still my favorite
Yeah, if
optics.
you can pass the landing test, you pretty
Yeah,
much
you good.
I mean, the military's got nothing on him.
Bruce, we're gonna let you talk eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is amazing. This is the easiest podcast I've ever done. Just let you guys roll. Yeah, no, it's you talk say I appreciate you saying that. It's been a great partnership, and I think it's not only our brands but our companies are like-minded. We're family owned and still, we got a few more shareholders probably than what you do. Then we have about 62 family shareholders that
Yeah, we're a little under that.
So it's fifth generation family owned, but it's still the same mindset of making an incredibly quality product. And we make all of our rifle scopes here in our factory in Beaverton, Oregon. So it's American made, and we're just real proud of that. So I think if you look at all of our relationships with any of our key partners, they've been long term. I'm real proud of the fact that we've been able to keep the kind of relationships that we have, and Mossy Oak's right at the very top. So thank you for staying with us. We appreciate it.
Very cool. I mean, my son has a term he used. I kind of said it, but he put it in better terms. We was talking about a brand, and he speak of someone. And it's like, yeah, they do a lot of business, but the brand has no soul. And so, not to call anybody out for that, but what I'm calling out is that the Leupold brand has a very, very deep soul connected to the outdoors, and it's very cool. And it's one of those things you almost can't manage to do that. You just have it takes, long time of intention towards that for
doing
a
the
company,
right
a
thing.
brand, and often gets lost in the byproduct of just managing strictly the finances and balance sheets, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And, whatever, flipping it to the next company, and it's not that common anymore. So, kudos.
Yeah, it's thank you. I mean, I think that I really give credit to our shareholders because they have been really good about, I tell my entire team, we have about 750 employees here in Beaverton. And I tell my team all the time that it's not about being the biggest, it's about being the best. And if we focus on being the best, don't worry about the volume. Let's just be the best, because when we do that, we're going to do just fine on the financial side. And it's worked. It's worked really well. We're in an all-time high right now in terms of revenues and every other metric of the business. And I think it has a lot to do with patience and having the ability to stay on strategy for a long time. It works. So
100%, you know, everything today for me is, you know, trying to be generational, and we know what can we do to be sure we're around, you know, and often that is, you know, maximizing revenue right now, but a lot of times it's not. And so what are we doing to be sure we're around, you know, 2 generations from now, 50, 100 years?
Exactly.
That's the toughest stuff. But, you know, that's when you got the kind of team and the chemistry and the commitment, you get that over time. Then that's what we have too. Really, really, that's probably my proudest thing of anything to do with the brand, because, you know, these people are the brand, just like with you. So we'll get on to better subjects, but I want to call that out because we have been together for a very long time, through thick and thin, with a lot of interruptions that could have gotten in the way, but they haven't. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. We equally appreciate that.
Well, Bruce, I'm going to throw out the first question.
All right.
I've, you know, the Leupold scope. When you see one, you instantly know it's a Leupold. You see that gold ring, there's instantly recognizable. That was brilliant on whoever's part came up with that. And through the years, I mean, the very first scope I had was a Leupold, and I
Probably still got it.
I do. And
Did you pronounce it back then?
I probably mispronounced it back then.
Back then. It was
Do y'all remember?
Leupold.
You remember Cecil Carter was a rep.
Oh yeah,
And
Sure was.
and that's how I got introduced to him. But I have loved him ever since. But I was told at some point that your eye could. This may be a wives' tale. I'd like to understand this.
You'd be good at that.
That your eye could draw in like 7 millimeters of light. So the scopes that had, like, you would put, if you had an objective of a 42 millimeter objective, that 6 power was the brightest power. Is there any truth to that wives' tale? And what's going to gather?
Yeah, I don't
the most
know. I
light?
don't know about that one. I don't know about that
He
one. to be
did. He
honest.
might have. You know, he smoked a little back in the day, maybe.
Well, you guys at one time had a straight 6 power scope that had a 42 millimeter objective, and that's why I learned that. That's how I learned that.
Yeah.
Well, if you learn something that he's fixing to tell you is not true, did you actually learn it?
Oh no!
he might have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of things that go into, you know, what we kind of call light management, right? And the ability to really see, you know, perfectly out of a scope. And so it's certainly not just, you know, a lot of people think it's the objective size and that lets in more light. Well, there's a little bit to that, but really it's about, when you think about a rifle scope, you're talking about a system that has multiple lenses in there. And also how you actually, apply your coatings and what coatings you put on the glass. And that combination, it's really our secret sauce. That's why, you know, we're real proud. We think you can hunt 15 minutes earlier and 15 minutes later with our scopes. In fact, we know it, we test it, because we're really good at managing low light and dealing with that. It's probably because we live in Oregon. It's dark here all the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it's you got to do it here. But we're good at that. And I think that whole system is really what comes together. So it's more than just an objective size. It's really about how you put that whole rifle scope together and manage that. So those coatings are really, really, really key. And that's why we have a Twilight Max system that we put in there to make sure that you can see in those low light and in glare. So we have a shooting range out here in Oregon, out in Madras, Oregon. It's about 2.5 hours away from our factory, that we can go out. We shoot up to a mile out there, and we go out and we test all the time in various light situations to make sure that our scopes are performing better than our competition.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I always thought that, so I'm glad to learn that. And there's probably it doesn't appear that the fixed powers have stayed around. It looks like everything's gone to a variable scope that you can adjust.
Yeah, we don't, you know, we don't even make fixed powers anymore because the demand was so low. And of course, I've got guys out there that will write me letters and say, hey, how come we don't do a fixed power anymore? So, you know, but there's just a point where when you're only selling a few scopes that it just doesn't make sense to run through the factory, right? And so I have some fixed that I bought, and I've got on some rifles because I think they're cool, and I've used them in different situations. But right now everybody wants, right now that it's getting as much a range as you can get, right? The whole precision shooting, precision rifle thing that's gone on across the country and really internationally has really got a bunch of competitors, and it translates over to hunters going after that higher magnification stuff. So, we have everything you could imagine in terms of those magnified optics.
Laney, you got a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask about, I always heard, and I just assume, everybody talks about the quality of the glass. And I know you talked about coating. Can you talk a little bit about the quality of the glass that are in Leupolds?
Yeah, I think that, understanding if you think about glass, it's a little bit kind of thinking about rubber and the difference in a tire. I mean, glass becomes just really a commodity type item that you have there. It's really what you do to that glass, right? It's how you treat that glass, how you really look at, your kind of your actual configuration of the glass, but most importantly, what you do to apply coatings to that glass, so that it really manages that light. And so when you talk about quality glass, it's not just like looking through a crystal, right? I mean, we all start with what would be high quality glass, but then it's all of the engineering that you do. We've got about 80 engineers here at Leupold, and we work on that stuff every single day around how do we manage light appropriately, and that's applying different coatings to it. So that's really where the key is in that. So I would say everyone kind of starts with that raw material that's probably within our world in the same game. I would say, I don't know all the others, but certainly the quality premium, we all start in the same area. It's really what you do afterward from an engineering standpoint.
Are y'all actually manufacturing the glass?
No, we don't. We buy our glass. We don't manufacture the glass, but we do designate all of the coatings and everything else that we do to it.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah. So all the engineering behind it. Yeah.
Nice.
Dudley, you got a question?
Yeah, Bobby kind of messed me up. I had a similar question in mind.
That's a weekly occurrence.
Yeah. But so you were talking earlier about how folks are going to more precision. Does the whitetail hunter, your average whitetail hunter, I mean, you see folks going to different reticles and more zoom, that kind of thing? Or do you also see, more folks becoming more mobile when they're hunting and wanting something more easy, for a lack of a better term to describe
Simple,
it?
Yeah. I think we get, there's everything, to be honest. I mean, I wish I could give you a set answer on that. I think the whitetail hunter has moved to wanting more in their scope than what they did in the past. It's not just, okay, give me a 3-9 with a, duplex reticle. I think we're seeing that we have some, for example, our custom dial system that comes with all of our gold ring scopes. That's a great system because, you can, even if you're only taking 300-yard shots, you can really get that thing where all you're doing is just taking that, your dial and dialing it to 300, because we burn it free. We burn a dial for you, matching your ammunition. And right there, if you've got a buck that's, maybe you shot a buck and maybe he's, it wasn't a perfect hit and he didn't go down right away and you got to shoot him again and he went from 100 to 300, you can make that move really quickly. And so I think the feature sets that we offer give you the ability to do it simple if you want. If you want a duplex reticle and you want to know your holds, because you're never going to shoot further than 250 yards or whatever, and you want to know, you can do that perfectly. But we're going to give you the option to get a dial and actually get it as precise as you want. And I'll tell you, that dial out to 700, 800, 900 yards is really effective. We've done it with our very beginning end scope, where we've taken the Freedom and shot it out to a mile. So we know it works.
Wow.
So anything in our line is going to give you that versatility to go from kind of real basic if you want to getting as kind of precise with different, reticles and holds and everything else you want to do.
Hey guys, listen up. Let me tell you about an awesome deal Springfield Armory is offering now through the end of 2024. When you purchase a brand new model 2020 Waypoint or Redline rifle, you'll receive a model 2020 Rimfire rifle with a black synthetic stock absolutely free. That's an over $400 value on the house. You know we love Springfield Armory and their top-notch products you'd be proud to hand down to your kids and grandkids. So why wait? Learn more about this incredible offer at gearup2024.com. Springfield Armory. Defend your legacy.
Thinking about the age we're in with artificial intelligence and just smart technology and all, do you have now something where you can just, tap the scope and it'll give you the distance without having to switch to a rangefinder? I know y'all make an incredible good rangefinder too, but I didn't know how far we've become to make it all encompassing and maybe where we're going in the next generation of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch that comes with that, as you know, Toxie. Like, at what point does it become not hunting anymore?
I agree totally.
We can do all of that, okay? But the question is, there's states that already have said no to that kind of technology. That this isn't fair chase anymore. And so, on our military side of the business, we have a lot of technologies that we're working on, that we've developed with other folks, that we've done, various partnerships on. On the hunting side, we still use the rangefinder. We're gonna have a rangefinder. It's gonna give you a range, and you're gonna be able to dial to that range. Our CDS system is so quick and so effective, that custom dial system, that man, I don't know kind of what else you need. If you need the scope to aim for you, again. I'm not sure where that line starts to get crossed. I'm a big fan of fair chase, and that we're hunters, we got to go out and make it happen. So
I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, and the thing I kind of crow about this around the business, and it comes up in different places, but we don't need to be the arbiters of, what's right and wrong necessarily, because on one hand, you do have a little bit of dilemma. You have a responsibility to have the most accurate product possible, and so as even more than you, as a sportsman, each individual hunter has a responsibility to be the most accurate possible. And there's, and I look at archery came around first, maybe with some of that, with the advances that came along so fast and being accurate at 2 and 3 times the former distance. So you can shoot further, be more accurate further, but it's still up to the individual person to make the call, even with the technology you're talking about. Even if they had a military scope, at some point you have to, it's going to be up to the individual to do that, and not necessarily, put it on the company. Because the problem is, if you supply them with that, and then they're trying shots that you have no business, that the ammunition won't even perform at. That's the other thing about with a bow and the reduced velocity way out there, you might still hit the target. Thing with a bullet, you don't have the shock, the knockdown power, the penetration, and all of that you would. And so, that's, for one hand, I appreciate that you want to be careful about that, because fair chase and what's the difference between hunting and just shooting and all is really important to everybody. But at some point, somebody's going to come out with it, and I always say, what's the antibiotic to the bacteria is for the individual sportsman to make good, sound decisions about that. It's so easy to get carried away when you see a big deer and try to shoot too far, for everybody. So I'll get off that. But you have that same dilemma as, say, the archery companies would have too. But it's also the number one thing upon all of us is making an accurate shot. Don't take something that wouldn't be accurate, and clean and quick killing and so forth.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that are going on where this kind of long range precision stuff has melded in with hunting. Is those NRL hunter courses are pretty cool now, right? Where they'll go out and put you in a hunting situation. Of course, it's going to be, you're shooting steel, but it's a steel elk or it's a steel sheep or whatever it is. And you got to go find it on the mountain. You got to get yourself in a position to make a good shot. You'll know if you ring steel. So I think that is, and they'll push it out where they're doing longer shots, 700, 800, 900 yard type shots in those things. But I think as hunters, that's fine, but that you can make that shot. I think that really helps us to be more accurate when we get in the field. And before the season, I actually just hunted elk last week in Utah. And before I went out to our course and I ran through the whole thing. And it does give you a ton of confidence as a hunter when you can ring it out there at 700, 800 yards. But I'm going to tell you this, I'm not taking a shot at an elk that far. I'm just not doing it because I know what happens to that bullet. And I also know how hard it is to find a wounded elk. And I, that's a really, really, we as hunters, any of us that have hunted a lot have had that thing happen where it wasn't a great shot and you had to sleep on hoping you were going to find that buck or that elk the next day. And it's awful. Yeah. It's a terrible, terrible feeling for a hunter to go through that nightmare.
But it's the saddest thing. And the great, we just like this, we're talking about these paradoxes, and the great paradox of hunting is, I say it all the time, is like the truly greatest hunters in the country are also the greatest like animal lovers that there are. Right. That's right. And that's what kind of governs them. It absolutely, I just want to throw up if I take a bad shot or make a bad shot. And I know it's part of hunting, but that's, I mean, to me, if everybody has that heart for the resource, for the critters, which is, y'all hear me, I'm consistent about that no matter what the topic, then I think, it kind of takes care of itself, and that'll be in your mind as you take a shot or not. It's just having the presence of mind at the time you pull the trigger is everything.
Yeah. And it depends. Totally. It depends on the person. That practicing at 700 yards, I tell you what, if you have to make a 400-yard shot, knowing that you can execute on 700 in practice will make that 400 way, way better.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly right.
So Bruce, kind of growing up, one thing we all have in common, we all have scopes on our rifles. You rarely encounter somebody that shoots iron sights. Lanny occasionally.
It's fun.
On the 22, just for.
But we all, even like when my daughter, when I started teaching her, I explained iron sights to her, but then I quickly moved to a scope because that's what she's going to use for most of her hunting. But do other people find it odd now to look at a scope and realize you've got 3 knobs on it rather than 2 that you have traditionally used?
Yeah, I don't think anymore. I think everybody's kind of adopted where things are at now. And the amount of information available to hunters and shooters now is incredible because of all the information that's out there via YouTube or wherever else. And so, they want feature sets. I mean, the amount of requests we get for why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And we're always listening at how do we make this product better? And I also think the simplicity thing is really important too, right? Keeping it simple and understandable. Yeah. That's why we developed the custom dial system. We just developed an app that we have for one of our rangefinders, the new RX 5000, where you can drop a pin from your rangefinder onto your phone, onto your Onyx map, or it'll go on anything. It'll go on an Apple map. It'll go on any of the, most of the apps out there. And we're adding more on as we go. So it's not just Onyx. But it's a really, really cool thing, right? Where this technology, but it's simple to use. That was one thing I wanted in this app is I didn't want to have to push 17 buttons to pin this, where it's going to be. So if you see an elk and he's 500 yards away, you can hit it and it'll show you right on your map where that elk's standing.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Which is really good when you're talking about recovery and you're talking about, trying to find a blood trail. Trying to find if you're in the right unit. Is he on the border of a unit? I had that happen to me last year where I had a mule deer that I was hunting and he was literally, I was hunting in Utah and he was literally on the Wyoming border. And I didn't know if I'd have had this last year, I would have killed him a lot earlier. I can tell you that because I had to wait and wait and wait. Now, fortunately he did come my way. And so I knew he was in our unit, but there's a lot of advantages to that kind of thing, but we made it simple, which is my point. So it's
that kind of hits on where you were talking earlier about ethics. That's technology used for the right thing.
For the right reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you always these I think they're called heavy European crosshairs. You see these big, thick crosshairs that maybe are used on European scopes. How come those heavy crosshairs don't seem to have caught on here in America? Is there a bonus to them or a detraction? Are they good or bad? I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
I think that, with our product, I think, we have both thin and kind of medium. I don't know that we have the real heavy anymore because I don't think we had a massive amount of reticles available and we kind of tried to narrow it down so that we're thoughtful about what we're actually making and not, having too many SKUs. You guys know that as well as anybody. You can, have way too many things and confuse the customer. And so we've tried to be thoughtful about how we lay our line out and what we're going to offer. But the thing I don't like about those, personally haven't used them, is I just don't think you're as precise. I mean, if I've got a reticle that's thicker and it's covering up something, I want to, I hunt with a 3-18 generally. It's a VX6 3-18. I take a 44 millimeter because I want it lighter because I'm generally, in the mountains or something. And so with that, I want to, when I hit that 18, I want that duplex thin so that I know exactly where I'm going to shoot that animal. But, I think it's just a matter of preference on what you want there. So I forget what they call the German number 4s or something. Maybe they called them. I can't remember, but there was some real big, thick ones that, we just didn't have a lot of demand for them anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're putting fire dots in most of our reticles now. On our higher end scopes in particular, you can get a fire dot. So it's an illuminated reticle that's right in there. And I'll tell you, that thing is amazing because your eye just generally, you put that fire dot behind the shoulder and it's over. Wow. That if you got a good stable rest, you're going to kill that animal.
So the fire dot and also the reticle too is if you go from 10 or 12 and crank it down to like whatever 4 or 3, it increases. Does that increase the size of the fire dot or reticle, or does it stay stationary?
Depends on which scope you have. If you have a front focal plane, then it'll reduce the size of that. On all of our hunting scopes, anything gold ring, that's a rear focal plane, which is what I generally do because I'm a hunter mainly. That's what I do. I like to shoot, but I'll take my hunting scopes out and shoot. They shoot great on any range.
Right.
But on a rear focal, like a VX6 or VX5, 3, any of those, that's going to stay the same Toxie. So no matter if you're on 18 power or you're on 3 power, your reticle is exactly the same size, which I love. So I'm not messing with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It really does.
I'm just wondering if it was like such a small target way out there with a large fire dot or a large reticle would cover up too much of it,
So Bruce, as a guy that's around scopes a lot, do you have a rule of thumb that you could say if you I don't want to say knock your rifle over because that doesn't happen very often, but we've all do things and we go, oh Lord, I think I may have bumped this one a little too much. I need to go check it. Is there a rule of thumb that you have for, boy, I better go check this?
Well, I mean, that's why you buy a Leupold, right? Because we've proven that we can make a really, really rugged scope. I mean, you go, up to Alaska and, I feel like you just see gold rings everywhere because the guides and the outfitters trust them because they can be beat up. I mean, that's one of the things. We do not make a dainty product. Ours is, you can be relentless with our product because we really make sure that we put it through a thing here in the factory called the Punisher. And if you guys ever make it out, I'd love to show you our factory and what we do. But man, this thing just beats the heck out of the scopes. And we do it to our competition too and see how well they hold up, and it'd surprise you. Even some of the higher end guys, I think they don't hold up nearly as well. We figured that piece of it out. But what I would say as a hunter is, look, if I drop my rifle and I know it's a hard bang, I'm gonna do. If I can't, test it and make sure it's on, then I'll trust but I'm gonna probably always try to see if I have to, if there's a way I can confirm that it's on 0, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. That's amazing. Another parallel, you call it the Punisher. We just call ours the Lenny.
It passes the test.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty too. So,
yeah, we are. But we're hard on gear, and we're in the field way more than most people. In Leupold, I mean, they stand up. They just do.
And they got that huge selection of mounts, and folks that, let's just say, folks that have other brands of scopes, they go to Leupold to get their mounts as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So that should say something.
Well, I tell you, it's not only the scopes though, but their binoculars are incredible and lightweight.
I love them. I was just going to ask that the burgeoning technology of today that would help me, I think, improve a product more than anything almost would be, how do you get a very, very small pair of binoculars that still have light gathering and crystal clear, downrange or whatever? Because that's been tough for a lot of y'all. Have a tremendous one already that should be in everybody's turkey vest. I'll say that. But what's going on today that maybe helps that move the needle on smaller binoculars? Because that's something that has been a need for a long time that's been harder for optic companies to get to,
Yeah, I think that, we really strive to do lightweight in everything. And I think we could do a better job of talking about how lightweight our products are, like our rifle scopes and our binoculars. And so I think we really deliver a lot around, because, people were thinking for a while, well, if the scope's super heavy, it's going to be more rugged. It's actually not that way. It's actually the opposite, because it's a heavier object, right? And it gets banged more. And so this lighter weight, it makes it a more rugged product. So we've really worked on that. On the binocular side, the thing that kind of adds weight is your lenses in there, right? So as you start to really build your optical system out, those lenses do weigh something. And that's where you got to know the trade-off of what you're doing with it. But I will tell you, our new Pro Guides that we just came out with, I'll send you a pair of 10 by 42s in there, and they are super compact, and you still get a 10 by 42, and they are really, really lightweight. We did a great job on pulling that off, and the optics in them are phenomenal. It's going to be a great product for us. So we're doing that. We also have a fairly compact range-finding binocular now, the BX4, which goes out to 1,500 yards, and so you can range find right there, and it's pretty small and fits into that 10 by 42 pack that you can put on. So we're working on that all the time to keep it lightweight. For sure.
There are, and let's just be honest, there's a lot of great optics companies out there, I've looked through a bunch of them, and I especially on that smaller one, I've never seen a small binocular perform as well as the ones that you already had. I can't wait to try this one, because
10 by 32.
I just wiped it from my mind for so long to even carry optics turkey hunting, because it was just, to get anything decent was so cumbersome. And something small enough to use just was terrible until I got my hands on those. I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, I got a pair of them, and I wouldn't go anywhere without them now.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm sorry, I didn't used to ever use them turkey hunting, right? I mean, I just didn't. And then I started using them a lot. And I'll tell you, who I was hunting with Mark Drury a couple years ago, and we were driving down. We were just driving down dirt road, and then we see way over there. And I said, hold on. Mark pulls over. He puts the binoculars up. I put mine up, and there's turkeys over there. There's where they are. And we knew right there that we could park there, and we had to make a long walk, but we could get over to where we needed to be to start calling turkeys. So that's a great example of, we'd have never seen those turkeys, or even be able to confirm that they were turkeys if we didn't have our binos with us. So, and it's pretty fun when you get one coming in from a long ways away, and you can see him coming, and you got him in the binos. It's awesome. Whether you're shooting or not, that's a good time.
I use them all the time, and especially if you're hunting. We take people most of the time instead of ourselves. But then if you've got a group of, you might have jakes mixed with longbeards, and in a lot of our woods and the bottoms and stuff, once the season's been open much at all, you can't see for sure. I mean, if you get a look at them, you better get a look at them in binoculars and know what you're dealing with, because so many times you let turkeys just come up and walk off because you cannot ever see the beard to see what they are. And honestly, up into the season, most of our jakes have a big, huge wally head, just like an old longbeard or whatever. So that the binoculars make such a big difference. I was like, if I can get a look at them, especially because you move when they're still out that far, it can make a big difference in not making a really bad mistake or letting one walk off that you could have shot.
See these people? When the clock strikes 5, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. They have to do these things. They have to do those things. Enter the all-new LS Tractor MT2 and MT2E, a relentless force of innovation, redesigned with a new hood and cab built for comfort and visibility, with enhanced lifting capacity to get the job done, making these people the ones everyone else calls those people. Visit your local LS Tractor dealer today.
Moultrie has pioneered the game management category. Today, Moultrie is one of the best-selling brands of feeders and seeders in the world, and they continue to innovate with new technology that gamekeepers will rely on. Moultrie products are always field-tested and designed for hunters by hunters, combining forward-thinking innovation with time-tested practicality. Moultrie, first in feeders since 1979. All right, so guys, Moultrie is offering our listeners a 15% site-wide discount at MoultrieFeeders.com. Use code Mossy Oak with a capital M, Mossy Oak, at MoultrieFeeders.com and get that 15% discount. So, Bruce, let me ask this. Just talking to us, you can tell we're kind of old school guys. I mean, right out of the gate, I ask you about a fixed power scope. But
wait a minute, Bobby did that, not us.
But are there things that these new modern scopes do that we may not be aware of, or our listeners may not be aware of, some technology that they do that we could all be taking advantage of and helping us be a more accurate hunter?
There's a lot of engineering that goes into a rifle scope. And so what I would say is the way to take advantage of that is take your time. I mean, I think honestly, there was, earlier as a hunter, I didn't spend a lot of time on my optic often, where I would stick it on there and it's ready to go. And I'm close enough. And, that's going to kill a deer. It's on, where now I'm super, as you can imagine, kind of into making sure I use everything on the scope. So use your parallax, make sure you're getting it as finely focused as you can. Make sure your eye release is the right, what you want, and you're comfortable with it. So you have a full picture in the scope. Understand your dial and how to dial if you want to do it, or at least know your holds really well. And so what I do two things. I have a dial burnt and ready to go for me, so I know exactly where I'm going to be. And our 2-turn dials on a VX6, I was just shooting a 7 PRC on this last hunt. It was out to 1,200 yards. If I wanted to shoot at 1,200 yards, I could. That dial will take me. It's a 2-turn dial to go all the way around to that. But you know what else I do? I figure out my holds and I tape it to the side of my rifle too, so that I know if I got to do something quick, I can look and say, okay, that's 8 inches, right? And I also put my wind on there, so I know what that is. So I would say it's really the combination of all the features that you get now as a hunter is I would take advantage of those and spend a half hour really learning your scope and how it works and what you need to do with that. And then I think you can max it out. And once you do it once, then you're kind of in, right? It's just that learning curve. But spend the time to shoot it, look at it, understand it, make sure your mount's on there good, make sure it's comfortable.
You just said something I want you to follow up just a little bit on. I think that's a dark spot for a lot of deer hunters is the windage. So a 10, 12 mile an hour wind at a 300-yard shot, just take your average deer cartridge. How much could that affect your shot? It's say 300 yards.
More than you think. And it's depending upon what bullet you're shooting. If you're shooting a heavier bullet, right, and it travels doesn't travel as fast, it's gonna move more. Wow. Right. So I think and if the velocity's down. So, I think you got to really pay attention to that. I ended up sneaking up on this elk last week, and I got within about 250 yards, and he was on mid mountain, and I didn't think I'd be able to get there, but I did. But I had a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind across a meadow. Yeah. But I'll tell you, Toxie, it was great because I had it right there. I knew exactly what that bullet was going to do. And I looked at it, and that was my hold. And I was able to make that hold even at 250. And you say, well, that can't be much at 250. It's some inches, right? Yeah. So the difference from making a perfect shot to maybe not perfect, it is an elk, so there's a bigger target there. But still, you think about a whitetail at in that same situation, and that's really got to make sure that you use those things and understand those. So that wind can have inches to a foot type of, depending on where you're at and what that wind speed is. So I just do mine at 10-mile increments, and then I can look and say, okay, it's a 30-mile-an-hour wind times 3 at 200 yards. Here's what it's going to be.
Just thought, and I'm sure not many people even consider it. And, majority of whitetails aren't probably shot in 300 plus yards.
Yeah,
but
not here.
They can be.
More and more with the new technology they are. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because most people never really think about wind.
No, it's all about elevation.
Dudley, you got a question?
A little off the wall here. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like I can see better through binoculars when the light gets lower than a rifle scope. Is that true? And if so, do you know why that is?
Well, I think it's generally in our product, I've found it to be the other way around.
Okay.
I can usually see better in our rifle scope, even when the binoculars start to maybe not give me as clear of an image or as bright an image.
Okay.
So I would say it depends on which binoculars you have and which rifle scope you've got.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you've got our VX6, dude, you're seeing great. If you put that with our Sandy M or one of our higher end, you're going to see both about equal.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be the varying of which product you've got there.
Okay. Well, I guess that wasn't a very good question.
Because I've
I was wrong.
Well, I mean,
I've had times where I've handed my rifle to someone and say, hey, look, you can still see now. We can still hunt. And
Right.
they're looking through their binoculars and going, I think we got to call it. And I'm like, no, it's still legal. And here you go. Check that out.
Yep.
You know, so.
Bruce, would you explain parallax to us? Just so, I mean, remember who's sitting here at the table, but would you just so we can understand it?
Well, I mean, parallax is just basically what you're doing is you're gonna adjust for that distance to get clarity in your scope. So when you think on that parallax side, right, when you're adjusting it, you just want to be able to have that clear image. And so the easiest way is that's why we put that on all the scopes so that you can adjust that and really make sure you're getting a fine image in that. And that's really what that's for. You know, that's basically it.
Now, not every scope has that ability to adjust, though.
But you can adjust on the front of the lens on some of them too. On your rear lens, you can make some adjustments there too. So all of ours have some feature to be able to get that adjusted.
I've never seen one of their scopes not have that on it.
Yeah. I was thinking about the far end of the scope. Bruce, have you ever had scope eye? You ever been hit in the eye with a scope?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As much as he shot one, even now what he does testing on it has to happen. One of the more dramatic ones I had, one of my kids, it happened to. Bobby's only child and love of his life. His daughter, she got creased one time.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah, it did. I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't a Leupold scope. This was a long time. It's a while ago, and that's one thing I love about our scopes. We have great eye relief, and so I haven't had an issue with our products. But some people do. I've seen I've seen people scoped. It just depends on the situation and how they get into the rifle and all the stuff that they're kind of doing with that, right? But it happened to me, and I borrowed an outfitter's rifle, and it was a 30-06, and that thing kicked like a mule, and it wiped me out. I mean, I had a cut from here to here. It's probably still on there. You can probably see it.
Ouch. Have you been cut too, Bobby?
Yes. When I was younger, I was. And I saw just recently, last couple of years, Jim Shockey got a.
Well, you can get in a bind,
you can get you get excited and just
shooting at a funny angle.
Yeah. That's what happened to Jessie.
Getting a big hurt.
Like the first time she shot a rifle.
Yeah.
She killed a ton of deer.
Do you have a tip for, like, if we're trying to introduce young kids to shooting and they're shooting a high-powered rifle? Is there a tip? I've always heard to make the tip of their hat touch the scope, and that way you know they're not too close. Or is there something that you guys have perfected out there?
No, I think that, again, we have such good eye relief that, I have, all of my kids have hunted. I've had them all on scopes. They've, I think it's just making sure you got proper eye relief. Just make sure they're fitted in there. Get yourself in there and keep an eye on where they're at. So I wouldn't use the brim of the hat necessarily. I want to make sure they still have a good sight picture and all that, but that's probably a good rule of thumb. I mean, you can see them if they're too close in there, and make sure you're really, looking at that. I think the thing to do is now, and it's going to get easier and easier, and it should be easier than it is. But I introducing any new hunters now, I try to make sure we put muzzle brakes on and we throw a silencer over the top, right, so that we've got a suppressor on there, and that seems to be the greatest joy in the world. And I won't hunt without one anymore. You can get 5-inch suppressors now. They're pretty easy to get and get them on there. And when you have a muzzle brake, you're going over the top, you're reducing your recoil, but you're also taking that scare factor out with the sound. And it's just more enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's much more enjoyable.
And my tip forever and ever was always teach them with the 22 first.
Absolutely. Before
you ever introduce them to the bigger gun. But what you're talking about would even be better.
Yeah. So Bruce, we work with Nosler. And Pat Mundy he just says nothing but great things about you personally. He's a big fan of you, evidently. But obviously,
that's all that money you spent on him.
But we've been working with their suppressors and their ammunition. We've been. I know you have as well. But we're real impressed with what they have.
Yes.
But
they're good, man. They're another Oregon company too.
I was
down the road.
Yeah, when I think of Leupold, I think of Nosler. When I think of Nosler, I think of Leupold.
Leupold.
I'm sorry.
Come on, Bobby.
Yeah, we've had a great partnership together with them, and we work with all the ammo companies, and so but the Noslers have certainly been another family-owned business that that we've, had a long-term relationship. Pat's one of my best buddies in the world. He's a good dude. They don't make him a lot better than Pat Mundy.
No, he is a good one.
He's a good guy, and he's super knowledgeable about, everything hunting. So he's a guy you can rely on. But that AccuBond's a pretty good bullet if you use that thing. It works pretty well.
Absolutely.
All right, Bruce. The rest of these guys may have more questions. I've got two more. Okay. I'm trying to learn something here. If you're down here deer hunting and there's a buck out there at 200 yards and you've got your 3.5 to 10 Leupold, are you zooming that up to as high as power as you can to make that shot, or do you like it down low, or what's your thought process there?
How far is he?
He's 200 yards and it's starting to get dark.
Yeah, I think that it really depends on your shooting position. So if you're in a blind and you're real stable, then you can go all the way to 15. I would use a 3 to 15, but you can go all the way to 10. I wouldn't have any problem going to 10 on that, and I think you're going to be just fine. There's a lot of guys that say I never go above 8. I'm always just going to 8, and I'm comfortable there. As you increase that magnification, you can get a little shake in it occasionally, right? So if you're not stable, but if you can get yourself 3 points of contact and get super stable, then I would use all the power, and I would take my time and make sure I put that shot exactly where I wanted it. So, we have a VX5 that's a 3 to 15, and I know that seems like a lot, but that to me is a whitetail killing machine if you put that scope on every single one of your guns, because it gives you the ability to do whatever you want. You can shoot him at 3 and be up close, or you can go to 15. And if he's out there at 200, 250, something like that, you can make a solid shot on him.
My dad used to be Mr. Fox, he's like, no, I'm shooting on a low power, because you shake too much. I was like, and you didn't argue with my dad either, by the way, you just didn't. But I was like, you're shaking the same amount regardless of what you put it on.
That's right.
So with the highest power, you could actually tell to the degree you're shaking and be more certain of exactly where the bullet might hit. It doesn't make you shake anymore. And that's why maybe the shaking, seeing it bothers you. Maybe that's it. But I was always kind of a naysayer about, don't turn it up all the way because it shakes more. Well, it shakes exactly the same.
I like to see my heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do something about it if you can see it, Mm-hmm.
Well, you can look and study antlers, so that you can make sure you're not making a mistake.
Oh, Bobby's he's being a trophy guy like Bobby is.
Or study if they have any antlers at all.
Or you could be like Laney and Dudley. They're serious trophy hunters, and they will not shoot one if it doesn't have hair on it. Yeah. They're not going to shoot it.
If it's got antlers on it, we don't like to shoot it.
They're looking at hamburger.
The Furminator is the industry's most versatile piece of food plot equipment, allowing plotters to do every step of the process, working the soil, adding seed and soil supplements, and compacting, from start to finish with a single implement. It's hassle-free by design. Set it for the seed size and simply drive the tractor, and the Furminator does the rest. Check it out at thefurminator.com.
Nosler is known for their bullets, and now they're making suppressors. Nosler suppressors are made for hunting. Adding a Nosler suppressor to your rifle will make you a quieter, more accurate, and more effective hunter. Protect your hearing and disturb less game with a Nosler suppressor. The time to hunt quiet is now. Learn more at nosler.com.
My last question, and again, Lanny may have another, Dudley may have one. But do you have a tip for sighting in? You've obviously sighted in a lot of rifles.
That was my question too.
Make sure those mounts are on there. We get a lot of scopes back where I say, well, the scope's not on, it's not on. We put it on we have a range right here in our factory, so we can shoot every scope that comes back if we want to. And generally that mounting system is one of the issues. They've either got some loose mounts or they haven't tightened it quite right. So that's one thing to look at. And then, just get stable. That's really what it is. And I would, the other thing I found with my different rifles is sometimes rifles like different ammunition. I can have one that shoots, a Nosler perfect and won't shoot, brand X or whatever, or vice versa. And so I think, making sure that you're picking the right ammo and that your rifle likes to shoot it helps too, because you want that whole system to perform and have confidence in that. And then get it at 100 yards and get super stable with it. I prefer indoor environments for sighting in because I don't have to deal with wind and worry about that at all, if there's any. And you can get it really, really precise that way. And try to shoot holes in holes. See if you can do it, because if you're doing that, you're gonna do just fine on any animal that you're trying to kill.
Yeah, you want them touching. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
I like
Yeah,
those.
if you can, you can. There's these rifles. I mean, even
They'll do
stock
it.
rifles
No,
today
they'll do
shoot.
it.
They shoot inch groups.
If you
can do it.
if you have the proper scope on them.
That's right. You got to get the right
You
scope.
got to get a Leupold.
Aim
That's
small,
right.
miss small.
That's right.
Yeah, but
That's
Dudley,
right.
what's your last question?
All right, so Bruce, you got your Variax 5 3 to 15 mounted on your favorite deer rifle, and you climb into your stand and realize that there is a couple specks of mud dried on your objective lens there.
Good question.
You forget your trusty Leupold cleaning kit? Do you just leave it on there and wait till the hunt's over, or do you fish the base of your t-shirt out and wipe that mud, breathe some air on it and then wipe that mud off?
I'd probably just try to barely pick it off if I could. If it was dried, I'd just kind of pick it. I'd look through my scope, and if it wasn't bugging me at all, I'd just leave it where it is. Because I've shot animals before and looked at my scope and went, wow, that thing looks dirty, but I couldn't tell. But I mean, I wouldn't be wiping it with my shirt tail with a mud, gravelly mud or something on there. I'd prefer not to do that, but it'll still work if it does. I've seen a lot of really scopes look like they've been beat up pretty bad. When you look through them, a Leupold scope looks great. So I think I just try to get it off there as gently as I could.
Yeah, but if you don't have a cleaning kit, when you get back, or if you get back to your truck, and what's the best way, short of, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have a cleaning kit, what's a good way to clean it?
I just take something soft, just the softest thing you can find. I've got a little lens pen that I use. I stick it in my bino case, so it's always there. And I'll take some of this real soft. We've got some things that we make that that I attach them to my binos all the time. So I've always got one with me, because I'm constantly wanting to clean them up. And I would just use that. We've got one that's got two sides to it. That's got like almost a terry side to it, and then a real soft other side. I just use those. Those are fine.
I would just assume that as good as those lenses are polished, that it would be more difficult to abrade.
It's tough to scratch them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use a diamond. We call it a diamond coat on there, but we use a coating on there that prevents you from scratching it too much. If you're in there just gnawing away on it, then that's probably it may. But we don't. I think you're pretty safe to get in there and get after it as long as you're using something that's relatively soft.
Good to know.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is it's very thrilling for me to talk to him because I have so much respect for this brand.
No doubt about
it. Goes
it.
back a long way.
I've heard, and you could confirm or deny this, that there was a rifle left in Alaska with a Leupold scope on it. I don't know, years and years ago, and it finally was found. And y'all have that at your factory to show people that the scope still works?
Yeah, we got about 5 or 6 of those where we've got a guy lost his rifle, and it was found in a beaver dam, and the rifle's completely not usable, but the scope still works perfectly. And we've got a little hall of shame that we put it up it's actually in our cafeteria.
So it's not just one; it's several of them.
Oh yeah, there's 5 or 6 in there, and they're all different stories of a scope that was left in harsh conditions for a long period of time, and it still works. So we're pretty proud of that. That's a big deal. And I think, we're relentless about what we do as outdoorsmen and women here, but we're as relentless about quality, and that makes us proud when we get something like that and know that the product still works even after being in that kind of a tough spot. That motivates us to keep doing things better every day.
That's really cool.
It really is.
Yeah.
Very.
I hope I never add rifle to that.
I was going to say, Lanny, you may one up it someday.
Yeah.
You kept asking him what was the best story, and then I was waiting for Lanny to say, well, here's one for you.
I got one from last year.
So one last thing to add, a few years ago, Leupold added these performance eyewear, these really cool sunglasses.
I never leave home without them.
Look at that. Lanny's got a pair around his neck.
Was sharpening some bush hog blades earlier today with them.
Yeah. It's it was kind of funny. It was about, I think 3 or 4 years ago. I was, thinking about what we do, and I'm like, I went to one of our engineers, our head of our optical area, and I'm like, hey, what about if we did eyewear? I don't want to call them sunglasses. I'm going to call them performance eyewear because I want to be the next level in terms of how they manage light. But that's what we do every day. And he kind of looked at me and goes, that'd be the easiest thing you've ever had me work on. And so, 'cause it's just one lens, right? Yeah. It's just one coating. And so we started testing them, and we went through it. It took us about a year and a half, I think. We developed this line. We assemble them here in the United States, and they're
That's
a
awesome.
really great. I'm really proud of that product
They
in
are
terms
great.
of what it delivers.
Super
And if you're a
awesome.
fisherman,
Yep.
I mean, we're killing it with a lot of the bass fishermen out there. We've got a lot of guys on these things now. It just because they love the product and how it performs.
It's a great product.
Yeah.
And I've got a big head, but they're big lenses, and you really need that in everything that we're doing out in the field. It really provides a lot of support. And protection.
So here's
I was going to say, and I knew about the greens. Are there other products? Because there's so many people, not only for the way things have been managed in the last 10 plus years, but a lifetime brand and people that have held it close for. I'm 60 something years old, and I can remember it from my earliest days. Are there other new products that you're coming out with that people might not be aware of? Now, you can't tip your hand of what you might be doing competitively, but otherwise, is anything on the horizon new or that you might have come up with people need to know about?
Yeah, I mean, one of them that is that range finding binocular I was telling you about. That's we got that BX4 out into the market earlier this year, and it's performed extremely well. It's a really, really good product, super accurate in terms of its ranging ability, and I think that's one. We're doing a bunch of different things on the accessory side. We got some great tripods. We sell out of them all the time. We've got some, gun cases and some stuff like that our team has engineered. I mean, we're not, our product line managers aren't allowed to bring anything that doesn't have a high level of performance characteristics to it. So anything we do, it's got to have that level. So, we're doing stuff that are around the brand, and, we did a couple of pieces with you guys that we have in our line that sold pretty well. And, so we're doing, we're just continuing to try to innovate and make the best rifle scopes in the world and observation in the world. So you'll see some other cool stuff coming.
Yeah.
You do that.
What a great brand.
Yes, it is.
So look, the good news is that they've agreed to give away a set of these performance eyewear. So somebody listening to this podcast, so from the day it drops, we'll give you a week. You leave a review, and then we'll have our computer randomly select somebody that left a review of the podcast, and somebody will win a pair of these Leupold performance eyewear.
Awesome. Yeah, they pick whichever ones they want. We'll send them to them.
You better watch Dudley and Lanny using an alias name on that one.
Yeah, I'll get my friend.
Those are some great glasses.
Bruce, we really enjoyed talking to you. And I think we shed some light on some things that the old wives' tale that things that I've thought for years were true. I've learned that they're not.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
Oh, Bobby
thank you so much.
Hey, so I'll say this to you kind of personally because I know you'll get it. Is that and I talk around here because I can look around the table with Lanny and Bobby and Dudley especially, but a ton of people at the brand here, and we don't get but one life to live, and to be able to spend it making a difference in something you love is such a rare thing to a lot of people. And so just kudos to you for what you've done for that company. Not that it had to have you or whatever, but you've done such a great job, and then turn around and help make a difference in the resource and the things we love through with conservation. I really, really appreciate that. So I just want to say that because sometimes, you're not one to crow about all the things that y'all been able to help with, but I think people should know about it. And thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Toxie, and you're an inspiration, man. I mean, there's only one Toxie, and I just want to say thank you. I'm a huge fan of what you guys do, of Mossy Oak and everything you've built. So thank you.
How about that?
Ditto.
Yeah, how about that?
You made me blush.
Well, Bruce, we appreciate it. Thank you. You don't get to make him blush often, then. You pulled that off, Bruce. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate all you do, and I'm gonna look around the room. Why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley. Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.